See what I've got here. A friend of mine brought me this, claiming it wouldn't work anymore, having just a blank display and probably a dead battery as well. It surely is from the last millennium and one of the very first loggable computers. To open the protective cover, there's this small lever hidden underneath the carrying handle. I should probably take it apart as a whole to do a proper cleaning, but to begin with, I'll do just some quick surface cleaning. Then it's time to check for the electronics. But it's totally weird, I see no power socket of any sorts, less to say a compartment to stow a battery. Where does this thing draw the power from? At least I found out how to unlock that thing here, which holds the display, and once unlocking it, it can be moved left and right. Having said that, it just doesn't feel ergonomic, and I have no idea how the viewing angle can be changed. I was asking around what OS it runs, and people pointed me at getting this multi-purpose tape reel. I asked specifically for compatibility with this Hermes 3000 thing, and they said it'll work. I have not found out on what CPU the thing runs or how much memory it has. But it seems that back in the days they cared already for portability and developed an OS that would just go with many different manufacturers. So to load the OS, it's basically enough to lift this cover here and install the tape reels. They would give an audible click once properly seated. But it feels really archaic as you have to fiddle the tape into this thing here, which I believe is a guide for the magnetic heads. And the mechanism is actually quite clever, as it seems to be sort of an endless tape, as it can be read forth and back. Once you reach the end of the tape, a mechanism will kick in to reverse the spinning direction, so obviously the data contained thereon is encoded in a way that it can also be read backwards. Though I'm not sure yet if it really makes sense that the tape is exposed, as it's totally unprotected this way. But at least it's probably the only 60 years old piece of software still available and under support today. The more I dig into this machine, the more I wonder. I was asking in the shop if they had the disk media, and then they gave me this thing they called DIN A4. I've never seen this before, and it seems to be kind of a floppy media as well. But as far as I had understood it, it's at least double-sided, but the right ones read many type of media. So you can only store to it, but not read back from it into this machine. That seems to be quite limiting to me. Anyways, you can simply pull it in, and there's this metallic guide which helps feeding it in straight. Still, you have to pull these wheels. I get the impression all this lateral movement needed on the parts is used to charge an internal battery. We will see. At least I found what I believe is the power switch. If you keep it in the topmost position, the OS seems to be inactive, and even though when you're typing, nothing appears to be written to that storage media. I haven't found out yet what the blue, yellow and red mean, but at least I get to see what I typed then. So I seem to understand that this is a very primitive word processor. At least it has lower and uppercase character support and even a caps lock key, though I didn't find out how to change the font. And it seems to be even furtherly limited, as for example when you mistype something, you can go back using the backspace key, but it doesn't erase. You can type over, but then you'll end up having this. It can well be that my machine is buggy and supposed to be cleared at previously typed characters. But then again, they said you can only write once to this storage media. How is that supposed to be working then? At least I came closer to the riddle of where it gets the power from. Obviously, pushing any character on the keyboard generates a small electric spark which makes the machine work. And the faster you type, the faster it seems to be. But that seems to be not enough to generate enough power as you go. They obviously spared the enter key, probably because it wouldn't generate enough power. Instead, you have to push that lever and pull that other thing to the left to resume typing on the next line. At least it supports also some special characters, especially when you need certain accents for international writing, like French. And it's using the dead keys concept, so you type the accent first, which then seems to be stored to some kind of temporary memory, and then the actual character to generate the accent symbol. I wondered about what other functionality the OS, which doesn't really have a name, would offer. So I asked if there were some commands, like to perform a file copy. And then I was given this, which seems to be some kind of additional memory buffer that needs to be installed. It looks similar to the storage media, except that it's black. And you're supposed to insert two storage media with this buffer thingy in between at the same time. I'm intrigued as I've never seen something like that. I wonder how it actually works. Alright, so I was typing and it seemed to work. Although I was probably misreading the instructions and ended up having a mirror reverse backup copy. So I had to try it again the proper way round. Hell yeah, this time it worked. Though I must really say the documentation is totally flawed and so many things can go wrong here. But then I started to wonder how much I could store in this media anyways. As I didn't find any indication about that on the packaging, I just went to write as much as I could on one line and on as many lines as I could. Then I'd multiply it and came to 84 by 67 characters max, so that's a total of 5628 bytes. And as this DIN A4 is a double-sided media, it means we can store a total of 11,256 bytes, so roughly 11 kilobytes of data. Not bad for 60 years old technology. But yeah, they surely didn't have usability in mind. I mean, look at the keyboard, which seems to be missing the 1 character. Obviously, you're supposed to use the lowercase l key to type that 1 character. Seems they had to save some money somewhere, huh? And while there is no way to use images, at least you can type these old school smileys. There's no emojis, but better than nothing. Also, the icon set on the toolbar is very limited. To get a tab, you wouldn't type on the keyboard, but you would also head for the toolbar and click that button with the tab designation. And as there is no mouse support, you have to do that with your fingers. And they totally didn't think of using any graphical kind of icons yet. Yet it's totally unintuitive because obviously this thing is not a calculator, although it has there two buttons with a plus and a minus sign, although no additional symbols for multiplying or dividing. And even when you do 2 plus 2, it would type the two 2's but not actually perform any calculation. It took me a while to figure out that this is not to perform calculations but to control the tabs. So again, you will move that thing here manually into the position where you want to have the tab, and then you will press the plus sign to save the tab. To clear a particular tab, move to the same position again and press the minus key to clear the tab. And that other key using 3 dash characters is actually meant to clear all tabs at once. I also noticed that sometimes the OS seems to crash. This then looks like this, but luckily the machine seems to have a reset button that brings everything back to order. And once done, you can simply stow it away again. The cover has also this retainer for holding your media already built in. And while on the present day you wouldn't get any cleaning accessory for your precious computers, this one brings some cleaning brushes along already. Alright, this is a typewriter of course. I was only making some fun and jokes today. Not only is this typewriter 6 years old, but it was also manufactured here in Switzerland. And it is a perfect example of how these original concepts, like the tabs, are still found in our present day word processing software. Anyways, I'm the vintage collector, and this was my short Advent time story for today. Thanks for watching, and see you again tomorrow. If you check out this channel's community tab, you'll find some polls on potential upcoming videos. You're very welcome to upvote on upcoming topics or drop in new ones you'd like me to chase down.